This is another video for CODAP. I still have the same uh, data file open. I realized on the previous video, I didn't show how to export an image. Two options for that. So I've got, oops, I need to, I'll reopen that. So say I made a data plot. I turned this into bins, and then I fuse them into bars to make a little histogram. I would say we should make our widths a little bit smaller so we have more categories. It'll be easier to see more of the shape of our data here. But one option is to export then. You can make sure that your axes, you can give this a title. That's an important aspect of graphs. You can then export as an image. Test this image. Actually, I'm not going to actually import it. Sometimes it leaves off features, so be aware that if it leaves off features, another option that you can have to, oops, using the snipping tool, the snape tool, LOL, is the snipping tool, and I'm actually going to exit out of that, and I'm going to make this a little bigger. All right, I'm going to say that I want those bars to be 50. All right, so again, it changes the shape a little bit. So the snipping tool is like a screenshot tool, just on what you select. So I can select here, voila, I now have an image of my graph that you can upload for your assignment or copy onto Microsoft Word, depending on, again, what assignment you're working on. So the real point of this lesson is to talk about you calculating some single variable statistics from CODAP. So I want to, again, create a graph, but I want to get some specific pieces of data like the mean, the median, maybe I want the full 5-number summary or the box plot. So we're going to, once again, just pick a variable, make it our x-axis. I don't need any additional variable over here. All right, and I'm not trying to make a bar graph this time. I just want the values. So we're going to click on the ruler here, and it will give us a bunch of different options for statistics that we might want. So if I just want to count, there's the total number of values. I don't know what measure labels means. Doesn't seem to do anything. Let's make this a little bigger. If I want the mean of my data, I can click on mean, and it draws a little bar right there. Here, I can now see the mean is 127 feet. So I can capture that value, again, not having to type a bunch of things into bunch of pieces of data into my calculator. If I want the median, I can launch the median. So the median's 112.5. Our mean was 127. This is indicative of these outliers here. Are probably pulling that mean up a little bit, which is why the mean is bigger than the median. If I want my standard deviation, I'm going to shut off the median because the standard deviation is talking about the spread in reference to the mean. Right, so you can see that the bars are actually perfectly centered around the mean. So our standard deviation is 64.6 feet, which is saying on average, each piece of data is about 64.6 feet from the true average of 127 feet. The mean absolute deviation is a different type of standard deviation. We're not going to talk about it, so you can ignore that. If you are giving me, it's not a bad idea to leave the mean and standard deviation on here so that I can see kind of for reference what those values are. I can check your work. But the other thing that we want to do is make a box plot. All right, so the box plot, I can now see the lower, that's the minimum value. Quartile 1 is 83.75 here. So again, 25% of my data is in between this lower bound and quartile 1. 25 is between quartile 2 and the median. So 25% is between 83.75 feet and 112.5 feet. 25% is between 112.5 and 160.25. And then my upper bound is 420. So 25% is between 160.25 and 420. We can also show the outliers. If you're asked to show outliers, you need to show your work to calculate those outliers. But if we check that box, we know that I'm looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of data to be outliers. The way that we find outliers again is you find the IQR, so quartile 3 minus quartile 1, and then I add 1.5 times that IQR to this quartile 3. This is probably that upper fence, 245, if I had to guess. And then the lower fence is probably further than, like it's smaller than 18, so nothing happened. So this is kind of saying, hey, the upper fence would be 245, or that's just the highest value, but everything above here is above those fences. So that's how you can use CODAP. If you want to change color of your graphs, there's some other options here. But that's the main way that you can use CODAP if you're trying to calculate some various statistics of your data. Last thing I should note is I'm fairly confident the standard deviation calculation is using the sample standard deviation. And since we don't have an option, that's just something to be aware of if you're doing homework and you're trying to use CODAP to calculate these values. Just make sure that you're aware that this is only giving you the sample standard deviation, not the population standard deviation. The formulas are slightly differently. Once again, let me know if you have any questions. There'll be a third video about making scatter plots, looking for relationships between two variables, correlation coefficient, linear regression equations.